So thank you all for joining me, Plies Anderson, on the Mornings with Plies, the podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a listener to this podcast. As you know, that we are a podcast about health and wellness, lifestyles, inspiration, and motivational speaking. But today I have a very, very special guest that I'm just extremely honored to have with me. I have my dad. I am actually his namesake. I am Plies Edward Anderson Jr. and he is Plies Edward Anderson Sr.
Yes, sir.
And so I'm certainly honored to have my dad with me today. And we're just going to informally talk about just some things about life and everything. We have Father's Day that's coming up Sunday. And so I thought that it would be a great, a tribute to fathers and how we feel about our fathers, because you have some that don't have their fathers today. And then, of course, we have, I have my father, and I'm blessed to have my father here with me.
Amen.
So of course, I want to also capture the legacy of my father.
Yeah.
And, not to say that anything will happen, but life as we know it is life is what it is.
It is, absolutely.
So, so with that, thank you for showing up and coming to see me today.
Son, it was a pleasure. I've been praying about it all the week, Daddy. This is a special privilege and an honor, and I am grateful that the Lord has allowed us to do this, Who would ever thought this to happen? Even back in the day when we used to go do revival service here and there, I'd take it with me to up in Flint, was it Flint, Michigan, or one of
we went
Terre Haute.
Yeah.
It was Terre Haute, that's what it was. And he was with me then, and I tell you, ever since I reflect back on that, and I said, well, Lord, you never know what might have happened down to that, and here it is here. It is here.
Yeah.
God is good all the time.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Indeed. I appreciate that.
Yeah. Those are definitely times, and we can get into that in just a few, and talk about the life and the position that God had you in.
Okay.
And he still has you in.
Yes.
But of course, you were more active in that time because it definitely required traveling and things like that. So we can get into that in a little bit, though. But so let's just talk just a little bit about your childhood. So where were you born?
It's a place called Carruthersville, Missouri.
Okay.
That's about 100 plus miles from south of St. Louis, Missouri. We lived in what you call in those days a shotgun house, just a long building like that, Had 3 rooms. And I am the elder of the 13 children that my mama had, So it was quite a transition there, because by me being the elders, I had to do diapers.
Oh, really?
And to change them around, yes, and then somewhat spank one if you get out of hand. Because that's what Mom told us how to do that,
Right.
And my dad, he was quite responsible in rearing us and providing for us.
Yeah.
In those days, we didn't have factories in our location, but we had what you call a cornfield, cotton field, soybean field, wheat field, beef, all of that. And then we had what you call a wooded area where I was about, I'm some 12 or 13 at that time too, cut the bark off the trees so we could have wood at the house to make fires and stuff. A double blade axe.
So let me get that clear. So you had to cut the bark off the tree?
Yes.
So you didn't cut the tree in half or cut pieces off of it to burn the wood?
Right. What happened, the other person had the job of cutting the tree down. When it's laying down, we took the double blade axe and hit it sideways and that'll skin that bark right off.
Okay.
I think it was a cottonwood tree or something like that, but that's what we had to do. And we didn't have any gas saw and chainsaw like we do today.
Yeah.
We had those big old long saws where it might have been 10 feet or so, because one on one end and other on the other end, pushing it back and forth like that.
That's some manual labor right there, Dad.
Yes, something to be appreciative.
I bet.
At that time,
Yeah.
And Mom would prepare the food for us as she would go from the garden and get the food. My mom canned food a lot in those days, and in fact, I did some canning myself.
Oh, is that right?
From what I have, she taught me how to do things,
Yeah. Yeah.
And my brothers and sisters, well, I'm not sure who did beside me did, but I know I did, It was also an experience,
Yeah.
We didn't have automated washing machine, nothing like that.
Right.
We had what you call a rubboard. We wash the clothes and do it, and do the clothing like that. Now, one thing we did finally get, though, is an old washing machine with the crank on it.
Okay.
Run the clothes through that and bring the water out of it and stuff like that. And but before it agitated, that one might have been electric, but it's an very old one.
Right.
It agitated like we have it today,
Okay. Okay.
But from that point though, it wouldn't ring, so we had to turn this crank to ring it. It was a job.
So I think I got a picture of that because I think I've seen those kind of old washing machines before where it has two rollers.
Yes.
You have a roller here and roller here.
Absolutely.
And a crank on the side, and you feed your clothes through it, and then as you crank, it'll come out on the other side.
Yes.
And so what, you take that and then you hang it out on the line.
Absolutely. And sometimes they would get hung up.
Oh, really?
The clothes, when they go through the ringer,
instead
of them coming out the other side, they just go right around that other roller. Then there was a lever on the side. We hit this lever, and it will pop up to separate the two rollers. That way we got it untangled.
Dad, that's some work. I'm so glad that we're in this time today where we don't have to, contend with those things. But I think, you got to go through some things or whatever to figure out what's better.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Those was, that particular time or style of things you were doing was probably better than what you were doing.
Yes.
But though we just evolved in life. So.
And what we call now in day of time called automation.
Automation, yep.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
From the old to the new.
Yeah, that's it. That's it.
Yeah.
So what time was that? What year was that, you think?
It had to be in the late 50s, about 58, 59. Because we moved to Fort Wayne, I think, in the early part of 60, because my daddy died in 59.
Okay.
So my auntie that lived here in Fort Wayne, she came there and got Mom and got us from Cartersville from down there. So it's about 58, 59, somewhere in that area.
So how old are you now?
Oh boy. If it had somebody ask for David, oh no, you're not. Well, the Lord has allowed me to reach the good old age of 81.
81, Dad. That is such a blessing.
81, man, I tell you.
But you don't look like you,
Oh, really?
I mean, you don't look like you're 81. Now, how does 81 look?
That's what I'm trying to figure out,
But you don't look like 81. And you don't move and you don't act like 81.
Well, thank you, son. It's only by the grace of God, and He empowered me to give me the strength to do what I do. I can't do it on my own,
Absolutely.
Of course, there are some people who are not as blessed as I am to have the physical ability that the Lord gave me. They need other support for getting around in wheelchairs. They got different kind of hand support, walking cane, and this and that nature. But God have His way of doing what He does.
Yeah.
But I don't deserve it, June, because at one time I was a stone drug addict.
Really?
My dad and I used to make our liquor.
Is that right?
Yes, sir. We used to drink even the white alcohol.
Yeah.
We used to take that and strain and pour that through light bread. And so when you go to a light bread, it does something too, but we used to drink it once it comes out the side. We didn't drink it from the bottle, and that was just too tough.
Right.
But when we poured through the light bread, though, it kind of densened the after effect of some sort,
Right. So then you all made your own drink?
Yes, sir. Moonshine, they call it.
Moonshine, okay.
And that white lightning.
Yeah. Yeah.
Woo! And you talking about some strong stuff. It's almost like we got what you call now. Well, it's been a while, so 151 Puerto Rican rum.
Okay.
That's just like pure alcohol.
Really?
And I used to drink that jive.
Really?
Yes, sir.
So then is that what caused you to go, to be a drug addict or whatever at that time?
That was a different area, a different incident called about being your associate, you're around who does that stuff. They introduce us. And at that time, being young, and we all want to try the life and see what life is all about. And by trying those things and not fully understanding that when you take that kind of stuff, you need to line your stomach.
Oh, really?
Because that will eat out your inside.
So how do you line your stomach?
solid food.
Oh, okay. Okay. So you eat first. before you
Yeah, you had to eat some solid foods in order to line your stomach where that alcohol would go through that food instead of going through your naked stomach where your
Lord.
stomach open to receive all that stuff and your body doesn't come back fast enough to keep you safe, really though.
So how did you get off of that then? How did you change out of now? First, before you answer that, though, I take it that my grandfather, your dad, which I never got a chance to meet, did I?
No.
Okay. No. Yeah. So I don't think I ever got a chance.
He
to
died
meet
in '59.
Right.
In Missouri.
I would have loved to meet, to have met him. Now, was Granddad alcoholic too, or was he?
No, he wasn't, but he loved to drink though.
Yeah. Okay.
He drank at ancient age, they called it.
So was that something that was common though around that time?
In those times,
in that area.
Yeah.
So I would think so too. Now for this reason, because now I wasn't there, obviously I wasn't born.
Okay, all right.
But for black people in that particular time, I'm sure it was difficult economically, right?
All depending on what kind of job you had.
Depending on where you were. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
My dad, he was quite an entrepreneur person. We had a truck and we had a bus in which we hauled people to pig cotton, chop cotton, pig cotton, pull cotton, and stuff like that.
Okay.
And so he was quite entrepreneur in that. It was just taking care of the family. So
that was his own business, like?
Well, even though in those days we was hired through a person had a plantation.
Got it.
And that way Dad got people who want to go to the fields or whatever he hauled them, get a certain percentage of what they made.
Wow.
So that's how it got that way.
So in the 50s, they still had plantations?
Yes, sir.
Really?
Yes, sir. Even the 60s, they had plantations down there.
I mean,
in different locations, whereas in Missouri they had something, especially in the further south, Alabama, Georgia, Mississippi, they had those plantations where, the white on those lands, and they had a lot of the different ethnicities to come and do the work on the land.
Okay. I mean, but obviously it wasn't like, it wasn't slaves.
No,
that. I mean, people would.
But further south you went, some part of it they were treated like slaves, though.
Yeah, I've heard of something like that before. I've heard of people actually growing up through generations.
Yeah.
And would not go anywhere else.
Right.
Wouldn't travel outside of their city or their state.
Right.
And so through generations, they grew up with the same mindset.
Yeah.
Even in the 50s.
Yeah.
Even in, like I've heard this I've seen the documentary on that where they said that you had some people that was still in the slave type
mentality,
of things.
Right. Area.
Because they didn't know anything else.
No, because somehow or another there was an inferiority complex about white and black. Oh, he the boss man. I got to do it. I'd say yes or no, son. And he owns me,
Yeah.
But really he didn't own it. It's just that they provided for them because they couldn't sufficiently provide for themselves. So they would obligate it to the man, to the white man,
And so,
but there were some nice white people, though. I mean, the place we lived on called Mr. Bader. Him and my dad got along extremely well, different than what you'd imagine.
Okay.
I mean, he was right there for my dad all the time.
That's good.
Yeah.
Well, I think, the good nature of people, I guess it don't matter what color you are.
Right.
You know what I mean? If you are just a good natured person where, now I'll put it like this, because everybody don't believe in God.
Right.
But whether you believe in God or not, God can put that nature in you to make you a good person.
Absolutely.
You know what
Absolutely.
I mean? And
Absolutely.
so whether you white, black, or, Hispanic or any other race, if you're a good person, you know how to deal, treat people until he bring you into his own truth.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this. Now, how were your schools back in the day? Was school decent? Or did you go and finish school in that time or what?
I didn't finish school in that area there, but I came here and got my GED.
Okay.
All
right.
Our school was located like 10 or 15 miles away from where we lived. We rode a bus. We had to walk. But we lived in the country, say a radius of almost 2 blocks from the highway.
Okay.
Because we lived in the field.
Yeah.
And we had to walk in the country road, the muddy road a lot of time, to get the school bus. And back in the field, the cars went down to make that pathway. Sometimes it was smooth and sometimes it wasn't. But that's how we were managed to get to the highway. We had to walk to the bus station there,
Tough living.
And on the bus area, It was something else
Yeah.
in those days, though.
Yeah.
But
Okay. Yeah. Because I was going to ask you about how the school system was in the day, though. That's okay. We can talk about something else.
my auntie on my dad's side was one of the school teachers,
Huh?
and one of the cousins of my dad was another school teacher there.
Okay.
And I was with my dad's school sister, youngest sister. But when it came to time for me to get our vaccination, I'd be gone. I'd be running. She said, catch him. He's going to run.
Right.
Every time, man. In those days, they had those what you call hypodermic needles. I mean,
Oh.
them, look, them put the whole thing in your arm, you know.
Huge.
Yes, indeed. We were frightened. Yes, sir. Yes, indeed. That really turned me away from the baby. And up today, I still don't like them.
Well, the dentists use those kind of needles. Still.
Yes, indeed. Well,
Big long
yes,
needles and everything.
Lord
And
have mercy.
pump that stuff in and numb your face.
Yeah.
Now, so let me ask you there. Is now, speaking of just now, as relates to when you was younger, is there anything that you think that you would have liked to ask your parents? You know, knowing how y'all grew up and in situations or.
Well, we learned a lot of stuff by other peers,
Okay.
and so really wasn't that really deeply close to Dad asking us about life in itself.
Uh-huh.
We learned a lot by other peers.
Okay.
And it was something like we didn't talk about that to
Okay.
Dad or Mom,
Okay.
Mom was a Christian at that time. My dad wasn't, but I learned a lot through my cousin.
I see.
That's how I got myself in trouble a lot. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I got in trouble a lot, so I really didn't have to ask him.
Yeah.
So what I needed to go to my cousin, And he was more or less a street kind of kid, and he was a wild guy,
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's how I got my learning about life.
So, were there any earlier thoughts of, what you wanted to be when you grew up? Did you have any ambitions of anything you wanted to be?
At that particular time, not at that time. I can recall during the time I was in the cotton field and they had those new cars.
Okay.
I mean, my brother said, I'm gonna get me a car just like that one he did. Give me a
Yeah.
car just like that.
Yeah.
Before, as in professional skills, I wasn't learned about that.
Right.
I wasn't taught about that,
So that world,
But
so that world wasn't really opened up to you. It
Not
was
at that
just,
time.
It was just pretty much the field.
Yes,
You know
yes.
what I mean? It wasn't nothing about about being a carpenter.
No,
being an electrician.
none of that.
Nothing like that. Okay.
No.
Yeah.
But one thing what I kept in mind, I used to watch my dad work on cars a lot, and so I said I want to be like my dad,
Yeah.
And whether that was a renowned professional skill or not, I don't know. But when he could work on cars, I wanted to do just what he did.
Well, speaking of that, I mean, like that's what you do now.
Yeah, well, absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, you're very, very good at working on cars. You have a passion for working on cars, and you know what I mean. And I can ask you something because actually, I picked that up from you.
Oh, yeah, okay, all right.
I mean, really
Yeah.
though, if it's maybe not as in depth as you do in working
I
on a
don't
car,
know.
but some things that I think I can fix.
Yeah.
You know what I mean. I'll do it because I used to be under the cars with you.
Yeah, you did.
You
Yeah,
know,
you
and
did.
passing
Yeah.
wrenches
Yeah.
and things like that. You say, pass me this.
Yeah.
So I might pass you the wrong thing. He says, no, boy, pass me the other thing. the pliers or whatever
Right.
it is.
Yeah.
So, though, but that's how we learn.
Yes,
You know what
yes,
I mean?
indeed. Yeah.
So, now, and then too, like my brother, Donnie now, he's
Yeah. Oh,
very in depth
he
in working
very
on cars.
yes indeed, yes indeed. I think he went to school a little bit to get his some type of college though.
Yeah, but
to get his
he's-
advanced skill knowledge.
Yeah, like the last time that we were together, because he lives, of course, he still lives there.
Yes.
And so we're up here in Fort Wayne. So, but the last time that we were there, and I saw Donnie, and he was working on a car.
Yeah.
And when I looked under the hood, because I remember this vividly, Donnie had some things hooked up some kind of way. I was like, how in the world?
Yeah.
It was some vice grip pliers hooked here and something else wrapped up here. But that car was running though.
Yeah.
It was running.
I picked that up as a lot of time trial and error.
Yeah.
Trial and error. You try it out, see if it's going to work. That don't work, we're going to try another way.
Yeah.
And that's one of the ways I learned myself. Well, after watching my dad do a lot of stuff, because the tools those days is nowhere compared to the tools we have nowadays. So and what you call metric tools and the common tools, but nowadays, as you know, it's so automated nowadays. So it's far beyond what we used to do. But he's very expensive. Sometimes I even call him myself. Hey man, have you tried this? What do you think about this? Picking him out there a little bit,
Yep.
Well, you can do this here and do that, He said, well, I don't know. Let me see. Just think back for a minute. Oh, yeah, you can do it this way. I said, oh, okay.
Yeah. So, that's how you learn, though. And I think that's how even like the industries, of course, they've evolved so much over the years.
Yeah.
I work in a manufacturing place, and so, they have a system, they have a line, and every section of the truck is put in a certain area.
Right.
And, it's all together. But I believe a lot of that comes from the first, just like you saying, first initial, before all that stuff we have right now, you had to you had to have some kind of beginning.
Right.
And it's like you said, a trial and error. That's how they evolved to what they know now.
Yeah. Yep.
And from people who was gifted. I mean, like you and knowing how to put stuff together. That's how all of that stuff started.
Yeah. Which now most of the manufacturers now they have blueprints.
Yeah.
And stuff of that nature. Theoretically, they say by theory, if we do it this way, it'll work. They said by theory.
That's only
but not
theory.
Necessarily it's going to work that way.
That's right.
Because a lot of the engineers, they like I said, they go through the mind thought of trying it, but until they're experiencing it physically, they can fortitude say, well, oh yeah, this will work.
So I mean, let's talk now about now you already talked about just growing up and now younger adult life. So like in a sense, you kind of said you had a mentor without you even asking.
Right.
So, but that was your cousin. Though.
Yeah. Yep.
So how was that situation like? Did you all leave the house after you done with your chores and did whatever or what?
Well, we didn't live that close together. We mostly did things on the weekend. They lived in the town, in the city. We lived in the country.
Okay.
But on the Saturdays and stuff, we always go to uptown or something like that. Running him, and we get to go a little night. We call them nightclub, but we that what they call. Well, that's what they call them here now. We call them juke joints.
I was getting ready to say that. I mean, I think they call it a juke joint.
Yep. And by him already got that experience. And where he got his experience, I don't know. But what he did, and of course,
Yeah, you picked up along the way.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. So that's how I got ourselves in trouble, But
yeah. So were you in trouble a lot though when you grew up, or
No, not really.
Or you avoided a lot of that stuff?
Well, I picked up seeing other young guys my age who got themselves some bad trouble and the different type of diseases that came about,
Okay.
And when I saw that, now don't get me wrong, I may have, but but
yeah,
I didn't follow the trait,
That's good. That's
so
good.
I kind of observed that. So no, because one friend of mine, he went to the same church together. He'd got himself in a health situation that, man, I tell you, it wasn't indescribable, man. He couldn't sit in a chair like we sit. He had to sit with one leg over here and one leg over here because his body was messed up from some type of disease,
Really?
And I mean, it was I'm not sure what he ever recovered from that,
Right.
And
What? You think he caught a disease from
yes, sir.
from being involved?
Yes, sir.
Where he shouldn't have been involved?
Absolutely.
Oh,
Absolutely. I didn't. Yes, sir, he did.
Okay.
Yeah, he did. He
So
one of
we'll leave it at that then.
Yes, indeed. He was one of them little handsome kind of guys per se, and he,
He did a little bit more than he can handle.
Yes, he did. And then I don't think for as nowadays there's a protection stuff they use, and I'm not sure about at that time because I didn't know about it.
Right. Yeah. Well, there's a lot of stuff they probably just evolved to, and I'm sure, like you said, kind of where you grew up at.
Yeah.
Some of that other protection or whatever just may not have been available.
Right.
Or even talked about.
Because I never did hear anything about it.
Yeah.
Till I came to Fort Wayne.
Yeah, that's unfortunate.
Yeah.
That's unfortunate.
Yeah.
So, hey, I got a good question for you. This is a bombshell question.
Oh my.
So,
Shelter me, Lord.
so how did you meet Mom?
I've been pondering that question along because
Pondered that one, huh?
looking on the paperwork here. where did I ever meet her?
Yeah.
I knew we wasn't saved. I know that when we first met, I knew we wasn't saved.
Yeah.
Because I was doing some party stuff and.
Okay, well, let's do it like this then. So you moved here to Fort Wayne.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so in the 60s. So what, you think you was at the the nightclub?
Some kind of call you.
So all right, though, but like I was saying,
Yeah. Maybe she can answer that better than I can. 'Cause
Right.
women has a better
right.
memory set.
But I would think, of course, I don't know, I wasn't there.
Mm-hmm.
But though you moved from Caruthersville, Missouri,
Yeah.
and you moved up to Fort Wayne, so then do you think you met her here in Fort?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it was here.
All right.
We
All
met
right.
her. Yeah.
So then that's good right there. I mean,
Yeah.
like at least we know that it was here where
Yes.
you met Mom.
Yes.
And so that's pretty much where your journey, started with Mom.
Yes. Yes.
So how long were y'all together, or like when y'all first met? I mean, was it like, hey, can I call you, or can I come back to see you, or whatever? I mean, I know those are memories way back in the day. You might not remember that.
I'm thinking that once your mom and I started seeing each other, we stuck to it, more. Because I'm a kind of person, I don't like dealing with a lot of different women
Yeah.
at one time,
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
your mother appealed to me quite a bit there, and so,
Okay.
we stuck together pretty much there,
That's good. That's
Yeah,
good.
even got into church there. I remember Reverend Hall, the one put married, senior Reverend Hall.
Mm-hmm.
He married us, and that's how it went right
Yeah.
there,
Yeah, because I seen, a picture. Well, of course, there's several pictures, but the picture that I remember was you standing out in front of Grace Temple Church. It was on Smith, but but you're standing in front of the white, the white church, or the old
Okay,
church.
yeah.
So I don't know if maybe
The
the
eight
new
of
one
them.
was being built or whatever. But anyway, you were standing right there, and you had a black hat on, had a
Yeah.
black suit, and had a
Okay.
briefcase.
Okay, yep.
So-
Do I still have that picture?
Yeah.
I don't know. I may still have that picture somewhere in the house there. Yep.
So I don't know if you were holding me,
Mm.
or because if that's the case,
Yeah, you.
then that was in 67 at least.
Yeah,
'Cause that's when I was born.
yeah.
So either 67 or 68. But if my memory serves me right, I don't think that that you held me. I think you were just standing there. So yeah.
That's quite a long way.
I know. I know. Just based on that script, and based on that picture, I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Your mama can probably bring it out more so than what I could,
Yeah.
But yeah.
So let's just transition a little bit out of that.
Okay.
And though it is good, to know a little history about how your parents met and things
Right.
like that. But so can you answer? Well, let's ask this question like this. So the different types of mistakes that that you may have made in life. What do you think is probably the biggest lesson that you may have learned through the course of life, based off of some things you might have gone through? Now, I'm not asking for you to necessarily go into detail
Right,
about
right.
whatever
Right.
things are, because we all have
Yeah.
made mistakes and different things like that. But it seems sometimes that some people really don't learn from a mistake, or maybe not have talked about, man, this is what I've learned from
Yeah.
going through things. So is there anything that you can say that you've learned from the mistakes in your life?
In a sense, I'm still learning in a way.
Me too.
When I reflect back on what I could have did and didn't do, I regret it, but then I'm hoping that that won't occur again, whatever it was, I might have been, in the beginning, drinking a lot or something like that, and that wasn't the good thing that was been beneficial for the family, myself too. But on that one aspect, it didn't serve one good purpose. It served that doing the drinking, doing the smoking, stuff like that. It put me in the hospital. I had an appendectomy operation, ulcer and cancer at the same time. But that took a period of time for that to develop like that.
Okay.
They went to the hospital. Doctor told my doctor at that time, they put a tube in my nose, both sides of my nose, run into my lung to pump out the poison. That was the main educational part for me
Yeah.
to observe and stick with.
Then you need to turn from that.
Turn from that thing, that situation, you know.
So, wow. See, so that's something that I didn't know that.
Yeah.
See, I didn't know you had that. I mean, because that was a major surgery.
That was in 1965.
65. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Wow.
I was a backslider for most of all, one cent, because God had been trying to get my attention. But let me go back before that. My dad and I, we used to go on the harvest, pick beans or strawberries or something like that in Michigan. And I strayed away from the Lord during that period of time. And all the same time, the Lord was saying, now you need to come on back to me now, you know. Just, I was following this. We had two camps. We had a camp on this side of the city and another camp on the other side, which now I got with this other guy that put me at the camp. We were going to another nightclub or some juke joint, you know, and I was high then, you know, and we went up a gravel road and the sun was in my face. I couldn't see. I didn't know it was a curve up there. I was doing maybe about 45 or 50. Going up this hill, and what happened, I lost control. My car turned over in the ravine.
Wow.
But in the process of turning over, the top of the car come flat on the seat. Both windows popped out. But God threw me in the floor of the car.
And preserved you.
And preserved me.
So you didn't get...
Oh, and I got a little scratch on my hand.
Really?
When the EMS people came to get me, he said, they was amazed. They were dumbfounded and said, sir, how do you survive that?
Wow.
I remember exactly. He said, how do you survive? The top of the car was flat across the seat. Front window, back window popped out.
I never even knew that story.
Yes, indeed. That was one notification for me to really straighten my life up.
So you were probably high.
Yeah, from drinking a lot.
Drinking, and that's how the accident happened.
Yeah, because lost control going up there. Well, when I went up the hill, jumpy road, you know, all the dust, you can't see, and I didn't know there was a curve there, and my car flipped over in the ravine.
Wow. So you were still in Caruthersville.
No, we was in Michigan at that time.
Oh, Michigan at that time.
On the harvest.
So you moved from...
Yeah, well, been on the harvest, at a certain time of year we go to do harvest work, pick beans or strawberries or whatever, you know, and we stay till the harvest over, then we go back to Caruthersville.
All right.
You know.
So then, let me just get this timeline then. So you hadn't moved from the state there yet.
No.
But you harvest in different states.
Yes.
Or whatever.
There and even Florida.
Okay.
Florida
There.
too.
Oh, in Florida too.
Yes.
Okay. So and then, so you were still young.
Yeah.
What you were in your
Early 20s.
early 20s. And so after that, you moved to Fort Wayne.
Yeah. We moved to Fort Wayne in 59.
Okay.
And the latter part of, the first part of 60.
All right.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this. So when, now you said that you were you said that you were a backslider during that time.
Yeah.
So for those who don't know what that means, can you explain what a what a backslider is?
Backslider is one that turned from God and start back to doing the thing they used to do.
Simple.
Simple, put it that.
Yeah.
You're back, you're going forward, then all of a sudden you got enticed the enemy enticed your mind to do certain things, and if you're not strong enough and not willing to reject that, because there's some serious consequence behind that, you're going to leave God for the moment and go back doing the old stuff.
Just to fulfill whatever that
Yes.
desire or that pull
Yes.
that's on you.
Yeah.
So like you said, you used to be high, you used to drink,
Yeah.
and things like that, and then God saved you from that.
Right.
Now, did he save you after the accident?
He saved me first time, I might have been 13
Okay. All right.
when I first got saved. And I was saved maybe about a couple of years or something like that, and we started doing the harvest. And then,
Okay.
but I got reclaimed back to God when I came back. We moved to Fort Wayne.
Okay. All right. And then somehow God put you and Mom together.
Yes, yes.
And so you went on from there. And,
Yeah.
So now you two had a very powerful ministry, right?
And thank God still used me whenever needed at times.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm just, going to the point where, that people have purpose in their life.
Yeah.
Right. And then sometimes, things come up in life, and it takes you off of a path.
Right.
For whatever reason it is.
Yeah.
But the purpose don't ever change.
No.
It's just
No.
that the person sometimes get off of that, and we're not saying that to judge anybody,
right?
Because we all go through things. But I just find it interesting how God had directed your life, and then you and Mom got together, and then the ministry is still used.
Yes.
In whatever form that God chooses to use you in.
Right.
Right. And I think it's just a powerful thing that you never really can get away from. The call of God.
He ain't gonna let you get away.
No.
He said, even though a person may backslide, but in the book he said, I am married to the backslider, and I chasten those whom I love.
Now that's powerful. Now that's scripture too.
Yes, it did. Yes, it did. I chasten those whom I love. And person when they really have been dedicated, really been consecrated, and God had demonstrated His power through you, you can't forget that. He ain't gonna let you forget this. And Lord, I remember, Lord. And because it's just amazing how God can take little dirt.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Little dirt and make something important. In His eyesight.
Yeah.
Yeah,
but you saying little dirt.
Yeah. Little flesh.
Right, and we're talking about the flesh. We're talking about us.
Yeah.
That's what it is, and we're scripture talking about we formed out of clay of the earth. So that for somebody who may not understand what you mean.
Okay.
But He can take little dirt.
Yeah.
Form it into what He wanted to be.
Absolutely.
And He can use you for whatever purpose.
He did Paul that way,
Yeah. What did He do?
Blinded them and on the road to Damascus. He was powerful in what he knew on the natural side, but God turned him around to look at them on the spiritual side that they had saved him.
Right.
He said, "What do you kick against me, Paul?" He said, "Who are you, Lord?" He said, "I'm Jesus who you crucified." Kick against the prick. You know. And so that's how God He have His ways of getting our attention.
That's right.
But some of them, bad saying, we're ever learning, but really not ever coming to the truth of the thing,
Yeah, coming to the knowledge of the truth. That's right.
Yes, I don't want to stay in that mode. There's some areas I just need to know and say, Lord, this is it. I know now, Lord.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just like His voice. A lot of people still listening. Well, I don't know when God is talking to me. I don't hear the. Now, let me go way back again when I first heard the voice of God.
Sure. Yeah. Absolutely.
I was about 10 or 11 in the country, in the front yard. My brother and sister in the backyard playing late in the afternoon, and I heard the voice. He called me Edward or either Eddie. One of them. He called me by my name. And my dad would cross the field plowing cotton.
Yeah.
My mom was in the kitchen cooking.
Okay.
And I'm out there in front yard by myself playing with ants.
Okay.
In a red wagon.
Okay.
Playing with ants. And he called me by my name. And within 2 weeks or better after that, we went to the church. Mom was introduced to the Pentecostal church because we were, first at the Baptist church. And God made it possible, got her attention. Well, I'm not getting enough here. And met two ladies that were sanctified,
Wow.
And so it was a prophecy went on 1 week about my ministry. That the Lord got a calling on your life, in which a lot of people does.
Yeah.
And about a month later, another lady prophesied the same thing. Blown from another church.
At a different time and a different person.
Yes, sir.
Different situation, different churches.
Sir. Yes, sir. So
that was God speaking.
It had to be God. And as you and I talking, I heard Him explicitly.
Yeah.
A voice. Not a mental thing to hear in my mind.
Right.
These ears picked it up.
Audible ears you heard.
Yes. And then when I came to Fort Wayne, I hadn't really came back to God then, but I feel God was chasing me. So that was after I had my appendectomy operation. My brother went back to New York. One evening again, right there where Thayer Street, Bunch School is.
Yeah.
It was a street called Thayer Street.
Yeah.
I come out of my house, walking up the street, and this is after I had went to the hospital and I promised the Lord, if you save me, I give my life back to you. I made Him a promise.
Yes. Yeah.
That evening when I came out that house, walking on the street, the voice plainly said again, He said, "Remember what you promised me."
Oh, wow.
Man, it give me chills now.
Oh, my goodness.
Remember what you promised me. Those are 2 times I heard God's voice. So when people say that God doesn't speak audibly anymore, they haven't had that experience yet.
Yeah, I mean, you have to be tuned in to listen to Him.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
That's just powerful. How God can speak to you and to call you out, because you had referred to the scripture. We talked about the Apostle Paul.
Yes.
And of course, prior to him being Paul, it was
And
Saul.
Saul, that's right.
And the scripture speaks about him prior to him going to the road of Damascus. He was involved with some stoning.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they were the stoning a person because they believed in Christ.
Right.
And he was one that was against Christ and against the message of Christ and against that church.
Right.
But Paul was a religious person, but he just wasn't a believer in Christ.
Right. I think one part of the scripture I have either I read this or it was brought to my attention that he spoke about 14 different languages.
Oh yeah, very, very educated.
Yeah.
Well-educated person, and he was brought up in a religious set.
Yeah.
Like in the Bible, it speaks about and we ain't trying to go real deep in that, but the Bible speaks about the Pharisees and the Sadducees.
Yeah.
And the scribes and different people.
Right.
Those different sets were representatives of tribes or sets as it relates to the Mosaic time.
Yeah.
And the scripture or my study it talked about that he was actually part of one of those sets, Pharisees or Sadducees.
Right.
So he grew up in a religious thing, and those are people who were religious. They used to walk during the in the town with their garb, praying all out and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And but they believed in God, but they didn't believe in Jesus as being the Messiah. So anyway, he's crucifying the folk. And as you said, he walking down the road of Damascus. God is calling him and saying, "Why you crucifying?" But it's amazing how God can call you, but then also He sent Saul to a place to have him sit because he blinded him.
Right. Yeah.
And had him sit there for a while.
Yeah. 3 days.
3 days.
Yes,
so
sir.
he can minister to him, and his whole life changed.
Right.
So being a person that was involved in what he thought was right, God had to call him out and say, "Now this is the right path.
There
I
you
want
go.
you."
Yep.
And so I would think that that's some of the same thing that happened to you.
Yeah. 2019, when I went to Israel, we went on the road of Damascus.
Okay.
Up that way,
Man,
where that.
how'd that look? How was that?
When you see those things go, they got a sign that this is Damascus Road here. And if you know anything about the Bible, who traveled that road? Paul. Paul was,
Paul, yeah.
So it ran kind of a chill. What?
Same road they did.
Yeah, they point out a lot of different areas in the Bible in Jerusalem there, the hill of Golgotha. They pointed out there where he was crucified, the tomb where he was buried in. They did that too,
So now let me ask you this. What are some of the most important or most enjoyable things about being a father?
Out of the children that you have, there's one.
Okay.
Got your heart.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
There's one.
Yeah.
I mean, you love them all, true enough.
Yeah.
But there's one that's got your heart. And he don't have to exploit that to the rest of them.
Right.
But that one knows, though. That one knows, this.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome,
Yes.
Dad.
Yes.
That's awesome. I definitely experienced that with my own children. I treat them all the same.
Yeah.
But I had to express it to them when they were younger.
Right.
I told them, I said, "No, I don't love any one of y'all any more different, any more or less than my other one. You all are,
Yes.
the same, equal to me."
Yes.
But I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
We have a connection with, with certain ones, and I do get that. Now, do you think today's fathers have things harder or easier than you have? Like when you're, in your fathering and rearing years, as a father raising your kid, do you think fathers today have it harder or easier than you did?
Well, it depends on how they was reared. Those fathers was reared in comparison to how I was reared.
Okay.
They could have been in a family where everything was just smooth, and the father was there all the time, and he did this and he did that, and the wife there with him or whatever, came up okay. So different. It's kind of difficult really for me to really expound on that to the fullest. It depends on how they were reared.
Right. So,
like I said, mine was in the cotton field when I
yeah,
got my training from my dad, as
right,
much as possible, you know.
right, right,
And the other people could be just reared in a city surrounding,
right,
and that's a different
right,
scenario there.
right. Totally different. Your style of raising your children versus how it is for fathers today. You know, how is it? So you think it's so do you think it was easier for you when you was a dad and like you still are a dad?
Yeah.
But it, was it easier for you to raise your kids in that time versus how it is for a dad to raise their kids today?
Once again, the disciplinary action makes the difference right there.
Discipline, yes, sir. Yeah.
If some dad is so biased, the children get away almost with anything.
Just passive.
Yeah, and the children raising them really instead of and vice versa. Whereas my mom and dad, well, we got wrong, boy.
That's it.
We put the rod. They put the rod on them, like the book said.
It was no question about it.
And in some instance, that's just the way it is, man. You know,
Right.
of course. Nowadays, it's so much different in the whole spectrum of how parents are rearing their children than my time coming up.
Right. So you think that how they, the discipline of how things were when you were growing up, and I think you probably really had to be disciplined because times were so tough and rough or whatever. So you had to be disciplined.
Yeah.
Some things, but compared to today, discipline is lacking.
It is. So.
Do you think that affect the kids though?
I think sometimes the children, when their dad disciplines them, they think you're being mean to them.
Right. That's a big thing.
Oh, you've been mean to me, and I'm going to call this and call that, you know. So the laws has a lot to do with it also as well, even though sometimes some parents do get out of hand when they're
right. It'll go too far sometimes.
Go forward. So, it's kind of a...
Do you think that the lack of discipline or the lack of involvement from a father has a lot to do with how that child turns out? As a child grow up and is not at home anymore, he moves out. Do you think that relationship or the lack thereof, or the father could have been there and still not being present? Do you think that would have an effect on the child and how they...
It could have some, because when the child when they get in trouble and the other peers don't get in trouble doing the same thing, they can say, oh, my dad don't care about me.
Right.
I can do this, my dad don't mind this, It could be wrong, but my dad don't do it. With the other child, hey, if I do this, he'll say to my dad, they're going to get me.
Right.
So there's a different scenario again right there, It's kind of hard to really pinpoint all of them. If God don't be in this person's heart to really follow the word, because if you spare the rod, you're going to spoil the child.
Oh, my goodness. And that child being spoiled is something else. It's something else.
So that's kind of a toughie though. But like I said, a person got to be, and then all the time the person don't have to be a Christian. It's just that they have that sense. I don't want my child to get in trouble, so I'm have to do what I have to do.
Yeah.
To help that child to follow the right path.
Make some tough choices and decisions sometimes that you might not feel good about, but if it's going to help the child in the long run, you have to make some tough decisions. Yeah. Let me just end with this, Dad. So with your vast experience, you know what I mean, of being a father and being 81 years old, and I'm not speaking of whether it was perfect or not, good or bad or whatever, because there's nobody who can say that there's nobody say they've got everything perfect and right. So, but with that being said, is there anything that you could say to advise a younger man, who may not be a father right now, but maybe thinking about he and his wife are thinking about being a father or being parents? But is there some word of advice that you can encourage young men today, or even men who's been married for a while, of how to be a father, a better man, a better father?
Well, one of the phrases I would try to insert here is, do you know Jesus? In all your ways acknowledge him, sometimes we don't follow those. But if that person doesn't know Jesus, and the person he consulted with other people can help direct him in the way of marriage, and help him out a whole lot. See, I didn't get it because I wasn't saved. I wasn't really around Christian people that I could really talk to.
Right.
My dad wasn't spiritual enough to guide me like I should have. Sometimes I learn on my own. But my thing is that in all your ways acknowledge the Lord.
Yeah.
You might not know him, but God has no respect of person.
Right.
If you have the honest desire for your marriage or for a marriage, consult the Lord. See, a lot of time I ain't gonna buy that phrase there, but I'll tell you that after we get off the record.
Okay, all right, okay.
But I would really suggest to him, please consult the Lord.
Yeah.
He won't steer you wrong, I guarantee you. He won't steer you wrong.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, that's very, very good. The thing I picked up from what you just said is that when you were growing up and you didn't have, your father wasn't that person to really like direct you in the things that this is what you should be thinking about. This is what you should do.
Yeah.
Let me give you this advice about this. And I believe that is much needed even still today.
Yes, absolutely.
I had read a statistic some years ago, especially in the black community. It says, and I don't know the numbers right off, but like the numbers were very, very high for our black men in prison, who are like incarcerated.
Yeah.
And it had spoke to some reasons why a lot of black men are incarcerated. Some of it could be racist, obviously, but that's not the point I'm trying to make. It's more so that it's how they was reared, how they was raised.
Right.
Because if you don't put the right foundation in a young man, they're gonna grow up and grow like how if you don't tame your yard, it'll grow wild.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you get weeds and everything in there, and it just grows wild. And that's what a young man will do without sound like instruction.
Right.
They'll grow wild, and so that sets a course of legacy in a sense. So his child, when he has children, they're gonna pick up the same traits and do the same thing. Unless God get in there and have somebody to direct them.
Absolutely.
Out of that.
Absolutely. That's it.
Yeah. So you have anything else you want to say?
Oh man, I'm just so elated with this here, man. And we could go on and on, but I know I got little things to do yet. You got some things to do.
I get it. No, but
I appreciate this so very much, though.
Absolutely.
In my heart, glad.
Yeah. I am so glad that you said and you want to sit and talk with me and everything on this podcast. And, I'm so definitely excited. Yeah. Because this is something that we can always go back to and reminisce and things like that. And like I said before, we're not saying anything about anybody we even know it.
Absolutely.
But if you ever want to go back and to reminisce, and these are some of the things you can pass on. You have 3 great-grandsons. So, these are some of the things that they can see.
Yes, indeed. Absolutely.
And relate to. It builds our legacy. So, once again, thank you all for tuning in to this episode podcast, this tribute to Father's Day. I have my father sitting right here, and I'm so blessed to still have him. He's 81 years old, and I'm just blessed to, thank God for having him. I'm just glad. And so tune in to my next episode. We thank y'all so much. God bless you. Keep looking up.